All right. Welcome to episode number 0 of this new series we are starting, T-Kurals. Uh,
Yes,
it
episode
has
number
been
zero.
episode number 0. The reason we're doing episode number 0 is if you've not figured out from the title, T-Kurals is going to explore each Thirukkural. And we want the episode number to correlate with the actual Kural that we are discussing. For those of you before we start, we thought we'll talk about how much Thirukkural we know and uh, some facts about Thirukkurals and it's a really surprising rabbit hole Adi and me have gotten into. Adi is here, by the way. Adi, say hello. Uh,
Hi, guys. So, yeah, as you said, we're going to first talk about some history, some etymology, some myths, rumors around the Thirukkural, some beauty about it. And then we will jump into the first uh, Thirukkural
Thirukkural, yeah.
in the next episode.
Yes. Before we start, Adi, share your experience with Thirukkural. How much experience you have? Have you read it in the past? Things like that.
Okay, so basically, Thirukkural, obviously, my first experience to it was in school. Tamil Nadu government made it compulsory to learn Thirukkural in school. Actually, I don't know, but I think that is what pushed me away from Thirukkural because it was made compulsory. The education system basically has a way where you memorize something, not understand or learn it. So that definitely pushed me away from Thirukkural for a long time. Until a few years ago when I was like, I'm learning so much about Western philosophy and Chinese philosophy and Japanese philosophy. I should look more inwards into the Tamil philosophy and how we have come to here, like the place we are in culturally. And I realized that Thirukkural is one of the most important pieces of literature and philosophy we have, and that is where I haven't learned a lot about Thirukkural. I haven't learned many Thirukkurals, but as much as I know, I'm pretty fascinated, and that's where all this started.
Yeah. And for me, I actually grew up in Bangalore for the first 10 years of my life. So, but I grew up in a very Tamil speaking family. So I was able to converse in Tamil. I consumed popular Tamil media. So I knew there was something called Thirukkurals because, it's obviously referenced in movies and stuff. But then I didn't know how to read, write Tamil. I was never taught Tamil formally. And then when I moved to Chennai, I had an option between choosing French and Tamil. And I chose French because and my parents also told me just take French because learning Tamil from 6th grade without knowing anything would have been hard. Uh, uh, well, turns out I can only say Shamapal Poorvesh in French even today, nothing more than that. So clearly the education system is not effective in teaching language, and partly that's the reason why I didn't take Tamil. I felt like I didn't want to learn Tamil because school again didn't make it feel like it was a pleasant experience. And my mom always pushed me to learn how to read, write Tamil. She's like, padikka therinunda and things like that. And at one point, I moved to Bangalore for an internship after school. And at that point, I was like, oh, look at me. I say I'm from Chennai, but I actually don't know much. I don't even know how to read, write the language spoken there. So actually, it was very close to 2 years ago. So I started started learning how to read and write Tamil. And 2 years later, precisely on the day of this recording, I finished reading the first 10 Thirukkurals. Very proud moment. My dad gave me 100 rupees as concessionary price. It was a nice moment. But uh, so that was really nice. But yeah, so for the record, I'm also learning Thirukkural for the first time. I'm experiencing Thirukkural for the first time. And part of the reason I wanted to do this was to document myself learning and maybe even encourage a few of you who maybe don't speak Tamil, maybe don't read Tamil, has an interest in philosophy. Because Thirukkural is actually a very influential text, as you're going to learn very soon in our discussion. It's influenced a lot of people globally. That's right, globally. It's not just it's not something like it is today, where only people, in fact, only Tamil scholarly people sort of speak about Thirukkural nowadays. But there was a time when Thirukkural, world's most influential, and I'm not saying this is the ancient times, like very modern times, world's most influential thinkers consumed Thirukkural and spoke about Thirukkural and very outspoken uh, champions of the Kural. Adi?
Yeah. So one important thing we need to talk about Thirukkural is the basic history about it. we have no idea when Thirukkural was written. It is somewhere between, it's speculated somewhere between 300 BCE to 5th century CE. We have no idea when it was written. We have no idea who wrote it even. We call the author Valluvar, but we don't know his real name. We don't know where he's from, because I think his greatest selfless act, he has never mentioned himself or herself or who they are in the Thirukkural. They have never mentioned anything personal about themselves in the Thirukkural. The Thirukkural might have even been written by a few people. You never know.
Yeah,
So,
it could have been written by a woman. It could have been written by trans people. You don't know.
Yeah,
but
anything
yeah,
is possible. And one more beautiful part is we don't even know what these Thirukkurals are called. We have no idea what the actual name the author gave to the poetry. We call it Thirukkural because it is actually the word Thirukkural has many meanings. It could be the divine text, it could be the divine short, anything. So we actually don't know what all it could mean. And the beauty of Thirukkural is it can only be written in Dravidian languages. It can't, the grammar does not make sense in many other languages. That is why it has not been translated perfectly in English.
Yeah, and
This
for those of you who don't know,
Tamil's grammar.
Yeah, those of you who don't know, Thirukkural only has 7 words, and that's one of the greatest achievements in terms of from an artistic point of view. Why to convey so much only in 7 words, and that's why it's such a revered piece of work of art as well, not only just in terms of philosophy and ethics and things like that. That's why it's also revered piece, because all Thirukkurals are just 7 words, and it's structured in a 4-word, 3-word structure, and so it's a 2-line, 7-word piece of poetry that talks about a lot of complex issues. And when Adi was talking about it, has go on. Sorry.
Okay. So what I was going to say is, sorry to cut you off. What I was going to say is, So there are a total of 1,330 copulates in 333 chapters, split up into 3 books. Book 1 is Aram, which basically is the book of virtue. The second is Porul, which is the book of polity, and the book 3, which is Inbam, which is the book of love. They have not been split equally. Aram takes about 28%, Porul takes 52%, and Inbam takes 18% of the book, roughly.
Yeah,
this is how the Thirukkurals have been split.
And when Adi talked about that, we don't know the actual name of what what Thirukkural was actually originally titled. We were doing some googling, and Adi and I found out that there are 44 names over time that that have been discussed as titles for Thirukkural, including titles given by Kambar. Kambar is the person that wrote the Ramayana. The Kambar Ramayana, should I be specific? Okay. Kambar called it the
Eluduna Marai, which is basically the written Veda.
Written Veda, exactly. And the reason for that is Veda is taught through mouth, and it's passed down generation to generation, but this is the Veda written down. And people speculate the original name of the Thirukkural was called Muppal, which means 3 folds. And I'm guessing that's probably maybe because how the Olechodigal was folded. I don't know, but some people speculate it's called Muppal. Wait, Muppal or Muppal?
Muppal.
Muppal, okay.
Kutila.
Okay.
Some of the heavy influences Thirukkural has had over the world is it has influenced some great thinkers and philosophers like Kamban, Leo Tolstoy, Mahatma Gandhi, and Amayar. And it is believed that Leo Tolstoy was actually inspired by Thirukkural. And the Thirukkural, we're not going to discuss the Thirukkural, but it's basically something around do good onto the people who do bad to you, and that will be their punishment. And this inspired him on his non-violent ways and outlook towards a revolution, a non-violent revolution. And in his I think you should talk about this.
Yeah.
Go.
So Leo Tolstoy is an influential Russian writer, if you guys didn't know, and he uh, he really believes in nonviolence, and a lot of the leaders that believed in nonviolence looked up to him. People like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. And in fact, there's a letter titled uh, a a letter to a Hindu, uh,
Yeah.
which is a letter that is written by Leo Tolstoy to a person named Tarkar Nath Das, and he was part of the independence movement. And there he mentions Thirukkural. And this letter was then published in a newspaper called Free India. And this letter and the published letter was read by Mahatma Gandhi. And then Mahatma Gandhi asked permission to print that in a South African newspaper called the Indian Opinion, and that and this is said to be, and then it was later printed in Gujarati in Gujarat later. Uh, this is said to be one of the most. This is said to be one of the key points where some of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence principles were developed. And it's always something to wonder if this didn't happen, because Mahatma Gandhi is said to influence Martin Luther Jr. King and
Nelson Mandela.
And his non-violence and ahimsa principles were developed from this letter that mentioned the Thirukkural. So that's the amount of influence the Thirukkural has, even in modern society. This is not something that happened in the Sangam period or ancient day Tamil society. This is a very relevant modern day influence that it's had. So that's something that we can all, like, one of the things I'd like to say, right? Thirukkural, especially in our circle of peers, right, is something that's overlooked and not discussed enough, and that needs more attention. And part of the reason we're doing this is that it's a learning opportunity for us as well, and maybe inspire a couple of you to also talk about Kurals.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we should talk about the beauty of Thirukkural and how much it is influenced. Like Gandhi has said, the maxims of Valluvar have touched my soul. There is none who have given such a treasure of wisdom like him. And to be very honest, I think the greatest analogy to the Thirukkural was what Avayar said about it. And I'm translating this obviously. Thiruvalluvar pierced an atom and injected 7 C's into it and compressed it into what we have today as the Kurals. I think that's honestly very true. He has taken profound philosophical statements and he somehow has managed to shrink them into just 7 words. The 7 words have been the platform to reach brilliant ideologies, brilliant thoughts, brilliant piece of wisdom. And he put this limitation on himself, the 7-word limitation, the limitation of the 3-word and the 4-word, 3-word style.
Construct, yeah.
What we today would call as a haiku, but then he did it a few thousand years ago.
You know what? I'd really like to see some sort of fan art that shows Thiruvallur as a woman, or different types of people that are actually Thiruvallur, because we don't actually know. It could be a woman. It could be someone who's handicapped. It'll be nice to see some fan art of that. It'll be cool. Yeah, this is a weird sidetrack. I just thought another piece of trivia.
I've always believed Thirukkural was a group.
Okay.
I always wanted to believe that, because I don't know if there's no proof or anything about this, but I've always had refrained from thinking one person could have been was able to create such a extensive work.
Yeah, and I think it's also, and okay, one of the other things that we didn't mention so far, Thirukkural is extremely secular in nature. It references God, but it does so in not a preachy way. It does so in a this is a superior being. So even if you're not, if you're atheist, and if you replace whatever you think God as the universe or nature. You don't even need to be spiritual. Like you just think this is, or the world, right? And maybe things like religious. Whenever you mention something called religious ethics, you can just say that is normal ethics. Uh, it still makes sense. It's a very secular, unreliant on any religion piece of work, and that's really great. And part of the reason it stood the test of time is that it's not dependent on a lot of human construct. It's a pure. It's a more fundamental way of living than rather than built over some existing constructs that humans have made. It talks about those aspects of life. And I think
Yeah.
when yeah, that's another reason why I think it's done by a group of people, and it's done, and I'm guessing, this is probably like ancient Tamil civilization, and then there's like rigorous debates, and they're all talking, and I don't know, maybe like Aristotle, Plato, send them letters. It'll be cool. It'll be nice to see a nice Netflix fan fiction kind of animated series on this. It'll be nice. Yeah. Either way, did you know one piece of fun fact? The British actually tried teaching students Thirukkural from third grade to 12th grade. I think they wanted to teach them 275 Kurals in the education system. And after independence, the Indian government removed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they removed the Thirukkurals from the school syllabus after we got independence. But now Tamil Nadu government has been trying its best to bring it back, and they brought in all the Thirukkurals, every copulate of the Thirukkural into the syllabus. And you will find every time you go on a government bus, you will find a Thirukkural copulate on it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The government has written one Kural in every bus.
Yeah. So yeah, let's hope this great piece of literature lives a little longer. And I hope there are pieces over here where we disagree with Thirukkural. They generate some great, like we don't just blindly accept everything that's written in the Kural. It causes discussion in the series we're going to do, right? There are 1,300. We expect to release one every day, by the way. So you're set for 3 years of content. T-Kurals audience.
Oh my God, 3 years of Thirukkural. Oh God, okay. It's a scary thought.
So yeah. So hopefully we would have grown by then, and it would be nice to look back at this episode 3 years from now and see where the podcast is. But yeah, and I want to come across Kurals that probably I disagree with, or that I'm skeptical about, or maybe like I disagree with one day, and 2 days later when you're doing a recording, it'll be like, oh shit, this makes sense. When I read it together, when I read a bunch of Kurals together, it'll be nice. That'll be definitely a nice experience to have. As with a lot of works, with a lot of literary works and a lot of work in philosophy, you shouldn't agree. You should listen to it, but you should study it, but you shouldn't agree with it immediately. Take your time, absorb it, and then come up with your own findings. That's something I believe in.
Yeah. No matter how great, you should always question what they say.
Because they're also ultimately human beings. Please understand that. Yeah. But yeah, that's something we also want to tell our audience that I want to come along with this journey. If we say something you disagree with, or we agree with something that you disagree with, please let us know. Comment on Instagram, send us DMs on Instagrams. It'll be a fun conversation. Maybe we'll have you on for an episode and we'll chat with you. It'll be really fun. And Aadhi and I have a couple of things planned to do with this T-Kurals series. Hopefully this makes the podcast also grows and finds an audience that's outside our core audience now. We have a lot of hopes with this. And anything else, Aadhi, do you want to add before we move on to the first Kural episode?
No, I think this is a good time to move on to the first Kural episode.
Okay, guys. Thanks for the love. Hope and see you with the Mudal Kural episode. Ciao. Nandri.
Vanakkam.